There is nothing more satisfying than a perfect prime rib. It all starts with this. A prime rib is a roast cut from the rib section of the cow, and it's extremely tender and well marbled because the muscles there do very little work. Another way to describe it is a bunch of individual ribeyes put together. This one here is already pretty clean, but the first thing you'll want to do is trim away any excess fat, silver skin, or ragged edges. You still want to leave some because fat is flavor, but use your best judgment to clean it up so everything is nice and consistent. This is also a good time to pat your whole prime rib nice and dry. Keeping it really dry is one of the keys to making sure we get that beautiful crust. Once it's nice and clean, cut a few pieces of butcher's twine long enough that you can wrap all the way around the prime rib, and then wrap each piece of butcher's twine nice and tight around the prime rib, doing a double knot each time to make sure it holds well, and also making sure to trim off any excess string. As you can see, this step really tightens and cleans up that whole prime rib, giving more of that circular shape as opposed to something flat. Just like tying a pair of hockey skates, I find it really helpful to go through twice before tightening things up. That way, this tends to hold a lot better when you go to tie that knot. I love hockey. Got a game tomorrow night, so this is great practice for tying my skates. My family has a tradition of making one of these every Christmas, so we only end up having it once a year, but when we do, it's delicious. See how different that already looks? I can basically roll this around now, and look at all that beautiful marbling that we have here. This is going to look incredible when we cut it open later. Tying it into an even cylinder like this also means that every part of this roast will cook at the same distance from the heat, which will give us the most even and beautifully cooked prime rib. With that done, it's time now to make our herb-crusted salt brine. Into a food processor, we'll add some fresh rosemary and thyme, as well as a generous handful of salt and a splash of oil. Blend this up until fully combined, carefully scraping down the sides with a rubber spatula as needed. Once that herb blend is done, add it to the beef and get in there with your hands to mix it around evenly. If you've never made an herbed salt brine like this, trust me when I say that it smells just as amazing as it eventually tastes. That looks so good. Once it's fully and evenly coated, go ahead and toss it onto a wire rack lined baking sheet and then into the fridge where it's gonna be left uncovered for 12 to 24 hours. Along with our prime rib, we're gonna make a few sides, and technically they're optional, but I highly suggest you don't skip them. Especially this first one, Yorkshire pudding, which is basically like a popover, except it's cooked in the beef drippings from the prime rib. And it's really easy. All you do is mix together some flour, water, milk, salt, and a couple eggs. As always, use those eggs as an opportunity to practice your one-handed egg cracks. Bonus points if you can do it with both hands, without getting any shell. But if you ever do catch me getting shell, feel free to call me out in the comments down below. And that's it. Simply whisk it up until fully combined and no clumps remain, then cover it up with plastic wrap, draw a smiley face if you want, and place it in the fridge overnight right next to your prime rib. I never like to make you wait, so let's keep moving. This beautiful prime rib here has been resting overnight. Visually, you can already tell that color has changed a bit. It's also a bit drier and tackier around the crust, but to make sure it cooks evenly, we now have to rest it for 2 hours at room temperature. But luckily, I can fast forward us through that too. As a next step, we'll pat the whole surface dry once again with paper towels. Make sure you get it really dry here. This is extremely important before baking, and not just the top. Get the whole thing. Ooh, smells so good. And then we'll season the whole prime rib generously on all sides with fresh cracked black pepper. You might be wondering why we didn't do pepper before when it went into the fridge. And that's simply because black pepper can get bitter if it sits too long like that. We want to do it just before cooking to get that fresh flavor. This now goes into a 250-degree oven for about 3.5 to 4 hours. It'll be about 30 to 35 minutes per pound. We're cooking first at a low temperature to cook it through, and then later we're gonna get that sear. While our prime rib bakes, we're gonna make our fluffy horseradish sauce simply by adding some heavy cream to a bowl and whisking until soft peaks form, which means something like this. And then into a separate bowl, we'll add in horseradish, sour cream, lemon zest, lemon juice, and salt. And once that horseradish mixture is fully combined into a nice even paste, we'll fold in our whipped cream and mix until everything is fully combined. Cover this up with plastic wrap and add it to the fridge along with your Yorkshire pudding batter. Our prime rib has reached that proper internal temperature, and now it's time for it to take a little nap. We're gonna tent it with some aluminum foil, and as it sits here, it's gonna continue to climb another 10 to 15 degrees from all that residual heat. As I mentioned earlier, we'll use all these drippings here to make our Yorkshire pudding. First, scrape down your tray to make sure you get all those delicious little bits of flavor. You don't wanna leave even a single crumb behind here. Add all this to a bowl, and then bring in your popover pan. Now we'll measure 1 teaspoon of those beef drippings into each cup, mixing each time to make sure we get a little bit of everything. I know a lot of people go crazy for the prime rib, but I go crazy for this. Once that's been prepared, I'm also gonna grab my Yorkshire pudding mix and let this come to room temperature while I place this in the oven to prep, which is now much hotter at 450 degrees Fahrenheit. The key is to get the pan and the beef drippings extremely hot before you add in that batter. Once that happens, pour the room temperature batter straight into the hot smoking tins. As it hits that fat, it'll immediately start cooking from the bottom, where the steam is then forced upward to create beautiful, puffy Yorkshire puddings. Do not open the door until they're done cooking. If you do, that sudden temperature drop will collapse the steam inside the pudding. Now it's time to get the char on our prime rib, a very important step. Here I've got a ripping hot cast iron pan over the highest heat possible. You can see there's nothing even in there yet, and it's already smoking. By the way, this is probably gonna set off your fire alarm. I should have said that before you did it. The goal here is to get the surface of the prime rib to crackle and char in about 30 to 45 seconds per side. And that's because this prime rib is already fully cooked, so we don't wanna get that ugly gray band on the outside. Instead, we wanna sear it hard and fast. Look how beautiful and bubbly it is. Oh. Okay, we're gonna cover this up and let it rest again. It is so smoky in here. And now we're gonna use this to make our beef jus. First, by deglazing with some chicken stock. Whoa, that was a hot pan. Our goal here is to cook this down and reduce it, getting out most of the water and concentrating all that flavor. And once it's thickened enough that it becomes almost slightly syrupy, we'll add in a tiny splash of Worcestershire sauce and some fresh cracked black pepper, and then strain this into a bowl, and this is done. That is our au jus. Because our prime rib needs a bit more time to rest, we're gonna whip together a few sides. To make some easy mashed potatoes, I'll melt some butter and cream in a pot. And here I have some pre-cooked Yukon Gold potatoes. Those are the best for mashed potatoes because they have a neutral and buttery creamy texture and mash nice and smooth without getting gluey. Once that mixture is nice and hot, I'll add it to my potatoes and mash until I get that nice creamy fluffy consistency. The key is to not over mash your potatoes. These are done. For our quick cream spinach, add some cooked spinach to a pan along with some chopped shallots, a little heavy cream, a pinch of salt, and a bit of fresh nutmeg to warm things up. Now just heat it up until everything melts together and those shallots soften. Usually I find spinach to be a bit boring, but cream spinach happens to be one of my favorite parts of the prime rib experience. These are both done. I told you it'd be quick. Let's cut our prime rib. First step is to remove all that butcher's twine. By now, our prime rib should hold together on its own. This is now what I always call the moment of truth. Oof. I'm not even gonna say anything about this one, because we can never all seem to agree on how a steak is cooked. Instead, I think it'll be best if you all write it down in the comments below. Oh, my Yorkshire puddings. Look at them. Wow. My mom is very good at making Yorkshire pudding, but I think I might have just beat her at her own game. I'm gonna show you exactly how I would serve this at home now. Cream spinach, mashed potatoes, beef jus, fluffy horseradish. Boom. Oh wait, I gotta taste it. Whoa, I think I'll take this to go. Nobody tell my mom, but I think this was a little better than hers.